December board meeting and hearing on our fire contracts to order. And I'd like to start, we'll stand and start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dick?
Here.
Carl?
Here.
Pat?
Here.
Carol?
Here. Okay, Sally, will you read the notice of the hearing?
Notice of public hearing, proposed fire protection district, Town of Sterling. Please take notice that a public hearing will be held by the Town Board of the Town of Sterling, Cuba County, New York, at the Town Hall, the Town of Sterling, New York, Route 104A, on December 14th, 1992 at 7 p.m. for the purpose of considering the adoption of a proposed fire protection district, which territory would include the entire Town of Sterling, except for that portion lying within the village of Fairhaven. Such proposed district to be known as the Sterling Fire Protection District. Sarah McMillan, Town Clerk, Town of Sterling.
Okay, well, let's see, let me start out. The town board, we feel we've been very fortunate over the years to be serviced by 3 different volunteer fire companies. We've always had excellent service from each of these, and we certainly appreciate all the hours of training that the volunteers have all donated to the community. The town board has been forced into a real volatile situation because 2 of the companies could not sit down to a table and come to an agreement on the boundary lines. Town law states that the town board must establish a fire protection district to ensure the safety and the welfare of the residents of the town. The town board has tried to work with each of the companies involved. We've received a map from each of the companies showing the areas that they felt they could serve best. After many meetings, the board has arrived at 3 districts shown on these maps. The following items were taken into consideration when creating these districts. We considered the distances to the firehouses, condition of the roads that service the districts, and the general knowledge of the community, and the overall size of the territory that the fire companies served. Now, this has been a lot of discussions gone into this. The town board could have taken the easy way out on this and just created 1 fire district, but we've chosen we want to work with all 3 if possible. Some of the neighboring towns have taken that and created and given just 1 fire district in their whole town and given it to 1 fire company, even though their township goes right up very close to some other fire barns. But we have neglected, or we have taken the alternative. We want to negotiate and work with them, but that's where it is. The board has spent many, many long hours working out these situations, and we feel we've got a good fire protection plan for all the residents. Now we'll open the hearing up to the public, and we'll listen for different comments.
Harold. Yeah, something's not broke, why fix it?
Something not broke?
We've had the same good fire protection like this for years and years and years. What is the object in changing it?
Well, first of all, when we start looking back into the records, the boundaries were never actually defined. They were wide open.
So,
When we went to our attorney, he said you have to physically be able to, by law, they should be defined.
Go down to your 564 district and go to your Fairhaven district. Now, wait a minute, I got a question to ask you. I live on this boundary line. The house across the road is gonna be in Hannibal, my house is gonna be in Fairhaven. If I have a problem, I call in, they'll say, well, which side of the road do you live on, so we can tell you which fire department to send.
Well, first of all, you're in the Hannibal Fire. If you, read the thing, we've taken the center of 104A and gone 500 feet west. So all driveways and all property that goes onto 104A would be within 500 feet would be, so you would be in the Hannibal district.
None of these maps are pieces of paper.
Well, you look at them, you look at the contracts, the way the attorney has written them up, and that's the way it is. Now, that's the way it is. I'm really, I know, but you're still overlapped. The whole hamlet of North Sterling, the whole hamlet of Sterling Valley, including the church, the school, would be in the Hannibal district. That's the way it is right now. Yes.
I think I'm with a little over in Martville. You put me into the Red Creek District, which is a long-distance call for me. I was in Hannibal, and I understand from your handout that Oswego's going to 9/11. I can understand where I don't want to go through a separate operator. But did you give any thought when you were laying these out, these districts, to the fact that everybody in the 564 area is a long-distance call to Red Creek?
No, not, right now, you know, 911 is coming to Cuba County too. It may be 3 years away, but 911 is going to be in Cuba County. Wayne County, Oswego. Oswego is about a year ahead of the others right now. So it will be, we all will have a 911 someday.
How long are these contracts for? Are they a yearly contract?
We are proposing a 3-year contract this year. In the past, we've always negotiated 1 year at a time. And what we are proposing this year is a 3-year contract. The first year, we have the rate set. The second year, there'd be a 6% increase, and the third year, a 4% increase.
I'm just wondering if we get another chance to say something in 3 years if we don't get 9/11 in Cuyahoga County. Because I really object to going long distance for my phones. That's my problem.
I think when the contracts come up again, there definitely would be open for negotiations again.
Okay, but the long distance for 564 was not in any part of your considerations?
No.
Okay.
No, it was not.
I don't know what the long distance call is from Hannibal to Red Creek, but I don't think most everyone calls the fire department very often. I wouldn't say that I'm just going to speak personally that if my house was burning down or if someone in my family needed an ambulance immediately, I don't think that a 25-cent phone call would be a major
The
concern.
money is of no concern.
Well, all right, I understand it. Well, then
It's the mechanics of the long distance. That's the only thing that bothers me, is because I've got to go through a distant exchange to get to a fire department. Where I'm on a local exchange going to Hannibal now. I don't mind going to Fairhaven. I don't mind the redistricting. I'm worried about the mechanics of the telephone company breaking down between here and Red Creek or wherever their exchange is. That's all.
no, it's all digital switching.
Another,
What you're dealing with in Hannibal.
Another item that we've taken into consideration is clarifying it for the dispatcher. When you call in by roads, right now you call in from Sterling. We had a fire over here 6 weeks ago. Both companies showed up. Well, that was great, but I mean, there wasn't any real need of it because there was confusion on which company was involved. This way, it will be, as long as defined by roads, when they call in, the dispatcher would know immediately. There wouldn't be any hesitation on dispatching a vehicle.
So if you
Yeah.
call with the new redistricting, you say, I'm on Farden Road, I'm in District 3, or how do you identify yourself?
different name than Barton Road, or whatever. And the dispatcher would simply go down through the road and would say that would be District Number 2, that would be Fairhaven, or that would be Hannibal, or whatever. Yes.
If I may, just a comment, this gentleman, just because it was a 564, I work for the phone company, just because it's a 564 number, you're still calling a Oswego number. Hannibal Fire Department has just called forwarded that, so you're not calling Hannibal, you're calling Oswego when you call in. It's still called forwarded, so you're going through a step still.
I call Oswego Fire Control to get Red Creek.
No, I mean, when you're saying, if you commented about when you're in the Hannibal Fire District, you called the 564 number, okay, it was still going to Oswego through a step. And it was still, you wasn't calling Hannibal physically itself. It was going to Hannibal, or switching office there, and then converted up. So either way you look at it, you're still going through an extra step.
Okay,
both
I
ways.
appreciate that. Now, just clarify something for me then. Would I be calling Red Creek? That's the only thing I'm concerned with. I
Well,
would call
you wouldn't
Red
be calling Red Creek, you'd be calling a Wayne County dispatcher.
Okay.
Not Red Creek itself, not the
I
village.
appreciate that.
All right, any other comments from the
I want to know is, when this is all said and done, are the three different dispatchers, fire controls, going to have a map of this?
Oh, yes. They will have a map and they will have the roads listed in each district. Also, we hope to have the house number all squared away within a year and have those on the houses, so as, of course, I realize that people in a panic situation may not remember their house number, but that would also simplify getting the dispatcher to the right situation. Yes, anybody else?
I'd like to know if the fire district in Hannibal is changed over here in Sterling, and does that mean that we are still going to get ambulance service from Hannibal, or are we going to be without it?
You're not going to be without it.
Are we going to be without it from Hannibal?
Not as long as they sign the contract.
Will they sign a contract if you take this territory away from them? Have they expressed whether they will or whether they won't?
There's some question on it.
Sure. So you're saying that there's a good chance that we might even have ambulance service over there?
No, there isn't. You will have ambulance service.
From Fairhaven, though, not from
You
Hannibal.
may have Fairhaven, you may have Granby. You will have an ambulance service.
I mean, what do we need, like the guy said before, why do you fix something that ain't broken? Why do we have to wait from Granby for a rescue truck, or if you got one up, great. Now, you should have said it, but I'm telling you something, you've been looking into it.
We were told by our attorney that, that any company, any volunteer fire company, is proximity, could bid on any of these contracts. Yes, it,
No, it's Oswego. We're just using it as an example. It might be Oswego Town, for example. There's a possibility, but what Harold, what we've been faced with, and we're not the only town that's having to go through this process. I don't know if any of you have seen.
I really don't understand what you're going through.
Well,
Legality of districting.
Does anybody come forward and complain about the fire protection in this district, any of them?
No.
Other than the board and the attorney?
no. What we're dealing with are problems with both from an aspect of the as Harold said, that the boundaries have never been legally defined. The state law now requires all the towns to do that. As I said, we're one of many towns right now, even in this county, that are right now having to have these kind of meetings. So in answer to your question, don't fix it if it's broke. This is not of our doing. It's been a lot of push from the state in some of the new criteria to establish these districts in legal terms.
But you're saying you can't do that as they are now. You've got to change them.
No, that's true. And if you take a look at the map above, you can see that the changes are very modest. We made very, very little
Tell that to the
change.
guy who don't get a fire protection sign on his house, tell him it's just over the line. Tell that to him.
Well, I think that we'll still have mutual aid. I don't think that I would hope we're not gonna be faced with a situation where a neighboring fire company, if they're called to provide assistance, that they wouldn't do so as they've always done since the beginning of time.
They can't do it if they, you know, this
No,
really.
we're talking about mutual aid. We're talking about mutual aid. If it's a mutual aid situation, that is not altered by this. What we're talking about is a legal definition of fire protection district boundaries in the township. It does not affect an issue of mutual aid. That's a question of need at that time for that fire.
But what is the big problem with the way it is now? Other than somebody told you that you've got to redefine it. You really don't have to if you don't want to. You can leave it the way it is. Right?
In terms of the
You can leave
territory.
it the way it is, as far
We
as
could-
fire coverage now.
That's a possibility. What we have done though is to look at the past record in terms of where the calls have come in, the records of the alarms, and who has responded to them. And the numbers don't lie in terms of that one.
And not only fire coverage, but ambulance coverage too.
Yes.
I mean, Fairhaven has one ambulance. Hannibal has two. Red Creek has, I don't know how many they got, maybe one. You know, what happens if you're out on a call and you don't get any ambulance service from Red Creek? I'll tell you something. I'm alive today because Hannibal got there in 5 minutes. From Hannibal over to Sterling Valley. Now, I'm not saying that they can't do the same thing in Fairhaven, but it'd be tough. There were people there in 5 minutes working on me.
That's right.
And I don't believe that could happen if I had to wait for Red Creek or Fairhaven. It might, but I don't believe so. And I'm telling you that ambulance service and the fire service from Hannibal is a sacred cow right near the people live over here. And you want to just cut off part of it and say, we can get there as quick as you can. And he said, you know, what's the sense of having 2 fire companies arrive at a fire at the same time? I'd rather have 2 companies there and send one home than wish the hell I had one that didn't have it and the place burned down. And, you know, for what you're talking about cutting off, it really ain't worth it for the people that live along these boundary lines. They like 3 fire companies. You probably can't find another place in the United States with 3 fire companies.
You're still going to have 3
Are
fire.
you going to have it?
Well, that's what we understand.
Are you going to have, if Hannibal doesn't keep their district, are you going to have the Hannibal Fire Department coverage? Do you know that for a fact?
Not as we sit here right this very moment. That's what this public hearing is about.
What happens if they won't sign on that line? What's going to happen to all those people that you're talking about in the Hannibal Fire District? They're now going to be in the Fairhaven Fire District. Or Red Creek, if Red
Are
Creek
you
is...
willing to jeopardize the lives and the homes of people in this town?
Are you people saying that firemen are going to refuse to come to your place because they're in another district?
They're going to refuse because they can't afford to.
Would they refuse to come to see you because you're not in their
If they
district?
can't afford to. Can you run your company with no money? Can you run?
These are volunteer firemen, all of you are. If I call Hannibal,
tell you
they're not gonna come and rescue me?
Hannibal is owned by the fire department. It's not owned by the village.
I cannot believe the firemen in here are saying that they would refuse to
Have your house
service
catch a
anyone.
fire and find out.
Let's get back to the reality here.
Reality.
There's not that,
Somebody.
no, he isn't.
There's not that big a cut in the contract anyway. There's only, there's
Bottom of this whole thing.
$67,000 difference.
$7,000 is the bottom of this whole thing. You ought to take the responsible people in these fire departments, sit down and find a way to get $7,000. And I mean responsible people. If the people that are running departments can't sit down, get somebody else that can.
Well, that's one of the reasons we're here.
Yeah.
Tonight.
You want to solve
Yeah,
it by
do
going...
you have another, something,
The rumors that Rochester Gas and Electric is selling, does that have anything to do with the changes on these boundaries? Why not?
We don't know what is going to happen down there. We have no commitment of what's going to happen.
Talk to the town board about that deal.
The board has been involved with the PTL, but we don't know what will ever become of the Well,
Scriba has a windfall by having Alcan in their fire district.
well, we haven't never heard of any, I doubt there'll ever be any windfall in Sterling.
But I just wanted to know if there was anything has happened.
No, we're scraping, believe me, we're scraping for every dollar, and if you were working on the budget, you'd know it.
You practice their gas and electric now with Fairhaven, which it wasn't surrounded before.
Yes, yes.
I'd like to answer some of these people who seem very concerned that they're going to lose fire and ambulance protection. You're not going to lose it. That's not going to change. You just may have a different company responding on the first call. Fairhaven, I live in the village of Fairhaven. I pay taxes there. Fairhaven has proven itself with their medical care and with their fire department. If you live on a line, you can look at your maps and see where it's being divided up. Yes, Fairhaven may get the first call, but as this woman so aptly put, we're volunteer firefighters, and we're going to respond if we're called mutual aid, and I really don't think that any fire department wouldn't. Your coverage will be the same. It's just delineating out the territories so we don't have the gray areas, because there have been occasions where nobody comes, because nobody knows whose territory it is. This just delineates it. Your coverage will not change. It just means a different fire company may respond first.
And you get a call for over here in Sterling somewhere. What are you gonna do?
We call mutual aid just as we do now. You know what Hannibal does when one of their ambulances is out on a call? They call Mentor Ambulance, and you as a taxpayer pay extra for that. And when they can't get anyone to respond, they call Mentor, and you pay extra for that. As a taxpayer, you're entitled to ambulance service, which our department provides free, and so does Hannibal, and so does Red Creek. And Hannibal, when no one answers up and they can't get anyone, you pay Mentor, you pay ambulance service. In Fairhaven, we have Red Creek available, we have Hannibal available. If Hannibal's on a call, they have occasionally called us, and I don't expect that to change. I would be very surprised if anyone would say that would change. It's not in the spirit of volunteer firefighting. No, that's not right. We don't get paid enough for dollars and cents.
They have to have it, or they can't operate.
What happens if we're put into Fairhaven's district and we still call Hannibal?
Well, when you call, I don't know, when it goes into the dispatcher, you give your address, the dispatcher will get the right, we'll call it, we'll switch it to Fairhaven. And especially when we get 911, then it will be taken care of. Which we're a couple of years behind Oswego County. Also, Oswego County is supposed to get it next year, 911? Year and a half? And the 564 numbers in Oswego County. I have a letter here that says that they would not be recognized on the 911. They'd still have to call it dispatch.
Dan, I want to ask you one more question. Are you telling us that regardless of what you do here, or what this town board does, we're going to have ambulance and fire coverage from Hannibal? Are you telling us that right now? Or don't you know?
I'm saying you're going to have fire and ambulance protection. I'm not swearing it's going to be Hannibal. I hope it is. I hope it is. I honestly, we've put a lot of effort into it. We wanted to work with everybody. Maybe their lines have been changed slightly, but $6,000 to agree to a big association like that shouldn't break their back. And I think that they should be able to respect the town for 50 years of we worked with them.
Why don't you people go back and sit down and try to hammer something out instead of saying, well, we're going to change it and that's it?
We've sat down. Alan, you don't know the nights that we've met up here, and we've spent times going over this. And we're not going to, I don't think we're going to, I haven't got the guts to ask these guys to come back another night.
Maybe we should. That's right. Maybe we should. I'd like to know, is the $7,000 the whole crux of this thing that you don't want to pay?
Sir, speaking for, I'm the treasurer of the Fairhaven Fire Department. We did 231 calls in the town of Sterling last year. We received the same money as Hannibal Fire Department received for 96 calls. We still did it for that much money.
That's indeed, but this year, they may get 200, you might get 96 too, you never know.
Then they're gonna have to sit down next year and,
No, you won't sit down next year.
and do the, do the money. It's been like that for the last 3 years. I mean, you can go back through the records and look, that the number of calls has just been, you know, 231 last year to 96 in the town of Sterling. Not their town, it's the town of Sterling. We did it for the same money, so I hope they can, or Red Creek.
Treasurer Fairhaven, of those 230, how many of those were in the village of Fairhaven, or were they all within the town of Sterling?
Right.
There's 1/3 of them in the village, the rest was in the town. I don't have the exact figure with me.
Okay, Jim's been standing here.
I'm president of the Hamel Volunteer Fire Department. We came and met with you people, gave you a map of where we thought we'd been covering for the last 50-some years. You were very receptive to us the night that we did that. The first meeting you had, you were not very receptive, but after that. Then you sent me a letter stating that you were going to be cutting our district drastically in 3 locations. The north end of town, in the Sterling Valley area, up the Sterling Valley Road and the Schoolcraft Road, over on the opposite end in the Martville area. There was no negotiation between your board and our department at all. I took this back to our department the first Tuesday of this month. Our whole department voted onto it. We voted that we think that we are obligated to all the people that we have been serving for the same map that we gave you in the first place. That's the map we would like to work with, not the one that you gave us this last time. They voted that down as a defeat. We will not be covering the map where you gave us. We would like to do the whole process where we had it in the first place. As proposed. As proposed the first time.
We met with you people, we had your map. We had a map from Red Creek, and we have a map from Fairhaven. And there was drastically overlaps into it, and the board and we sat down and we tried to get a happy compromise here. Now that's,
Between any of the departments?
so we did not go back to, we took your map, we took Red Creek's, we took Fairhaven, and the board, and we sat down amongst ourselves. We did not have any influence, we didn't let anyone else in the room, and we ended up after several hours, we come up with this. We straightened the line up, and that's what the board adopted, or it hasn't adopted, but what we proposed.
After 30-some years in the fire department, which I've been active in the Hannibal Volunteer Fire Department, I would say that we've been covering the area that we gave you. And the first meeting I came to, you said you didn't even know where the boundaries were. Well, I'll tell you, I've been in the fire department for a long period of time, and we never had any problem. Ask Dale Stevens. Dale has been around in the Red Creek Fire Department. He's been around a lot longer than I have. I don't believe that Red Creek and Hannibal's ever had any problem running into where the boundaries were. I agree you got to have the boundary lines. That's why we determined them the way we did. We thought we'd give you exact boundary lines, just like what you asked for. We would be willing to cover that area, but not the area that you gave us, because we feel that we're not doing justice to the citizens that are there. They're the people that we are interested in.
Yes.
I'd like to ask sort of a 2 or 3-part question, basically to Hannibal, some questions that I have. Is number 1, do you share, can anybody answer this for me, do you share the town of Hannibal like Sterling shares with Hannibal? Do you share that with any other fire departments? That's number 1 question. I don't know what the point is. No, we don't. The point is, I want, how far is your house from the nearest point that you protect? You mean in the town of Sterling? In other words, where your firehouse is, when you're in the firehouse, you're close to residents in Sterling. When you're not in your firehouse, how far could you be away to protect your area? We have 6 members in the town of Sterling that live in the town of Sterling. No, I mean your equipment. When you're at the farthest point away from your firehouse, how far away are you from the firehouse? We're at the street from it. No. How far away is the fire on the outskirts of your town? On your boundary. On the opposite end, the farthest distance from your firehouse to the most farthest distance of your fire protection area. How far are you? Oh, well, I don't know the answer to that.
Probably doesn't make any difference, because there's always
We're always an engine in the department, you know, you realize that the house is never empty. In other words, if we move both pumpers out, another pumper is moved in. And if we go... How many pumpers do you have? We have two. Two? Two.
You always got one in the house?
There's always one in the house.
But the thing of it is, the big thing that I'm concerned about, why do you not share your territory with other nearby fire companies?
We did, Mr. Sutterby, the map that we drew was all closer places to Hannibal, not closer to Fairhaven. All those places are closer to Hannibal.
I mean, what about Ira?
What does that have to do with the town of
Now,
Sterling?
wait a minute, I'm talking, and I've got the floor, so I want the floor, and I'm talking right here to a gentleman, so that's who I want to talk to. What I want to know is the one reason we are sharing the town of Sterling with, we're trying, the citizens of Sterling are helping Red Creek, they are helping our own fire department, and they're helping Hannibal. My knowledge is Hannibal, we go into Hannibal under a mutual aid, which we've never, that I know of, never got any reimbursement for. Okay? But that, all right, so that's back and forth. But the thing of it is, I'm under the impression that Ira and some other districts, their house is closer to people that are right next to them than your house is to them. So the thing of it is, they could come to you and say the same thing. How can you, Jim, protect me when Ira's right next door? Why don't you give me part of that district? Why don't you share that? I think in what you're saying, I think is an absolute, a good idea to take and have so much area from house to house. But I don't foresee where it's any difference for Hannibal not to share with Ira, as Sterling shares with Hannibal. If somebody want to answer that for me?
The town, each town government is responsible for a fire protection district.
That's right.
Okay.
That's what we're doing.
Now, you can do that from any source. It's up to the town board to decide. Okay. We don't decide that we're gonna serve the town of Sterling.
In other words, Hannibal Town Board decided for the department that that's what their district would be, is that right?
The Hannibal town board could pick somebody else too.
Just create one whole fire district and put it right up for one company. You didn't have to put all this up.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, you wanna remember that the town of Sterling has had the best fire protection of any of the neighbors around it. Okay? Whoever was called responded. Okay?
You saying they won't now?
Well, if we don't have a contract now, we can't respond into the town of Sterling.
Even under mutual aid, you wouldn't respond?
That's different.
Okay, you wouldn't
Okay.
respond under mutual aid,
Under mutual aid.
regardless whether you have a contract or not.
Exactly.
I mean, the thing of it is, I see a community here, like in Fez, and I know quite a few of you fellows, that has worked together for 50 years, that you fellows know of, and that I know of, okay? The thing of it is, what the town board and what I've been involved in, and I'm involved with my fire department in Sterling. I've supported Hannibal Fire Department, and a lot of the people from Sterling do support Hannibal Fire Department. Even if they didn't even come here, you're still like, you're our neighbors. And you don't fight with your neighbors. And you take and you analyze things, and you try to get your ducks in order, and I think basically that's what we're trying to do, is calls for calls. In other words, it's just like you go to work. You work 14 hours, you expect to get paid 14 hours. The guy who works 8, you don't expect to pay him for 14. I don't think you'd feel good about that. And I think that creates, yes, like this gentleman said, $7,000, I think that is the point. But I think the point is, if I work 14 hours and you work 8, I should get paid 14. If you work 8, does anybody have a complaint with that?
Okay, I think on the fire protection, if you don't live within the firehouse, right, within a 5-mile radius of the firehouse, your fire insurance goes up. So anybody living in the town of Sterling that lives outside that 5-mile limit if Fairhaven gets the whole district, all those people are gonna end up paying more for their fire insurance. And that, if it's a business, it can be a considerable amount of money.
All right.
Okay, but the way right now is that I live within 5 miles of Hannibal, but I live within 5 miles of Fairhaven. So my insurance is gonna go up.
Right.
And anybody else is gonna go up too.
According to this, district judge.
That's only if Hannibal accepts the contract. We don't know if they're gonna do that. I think the board should ought to find out.
Let's
how much farther.
get back to dollars and cents. Take the people in Hannibal, analyze your treasures or whatever it does so you can see what the figures are, what the calls are, how many times that you've made calls, and see if you feel that what's happening, forget about the line situation. See whether it's fair. Let's take the dollar situation. Forget it. Let's take the dollar. Is it fair that, say, the $7,000 went here or should be given back to Hannibal? Do you feel that? Look at that. Do you feel that that's fair? If you don't think that's fair, then the thing of it is, like you're saying, keep track of your calls like you normally do. Come back to the town board and say, well, this year we had 239 calls. Fairhaven only had 89 calls or whatever it was. I think that we're doing a hell of a lot more work, and I think we should adjust the costs. I don't think you're going to have a problem with the town board. I know when I was supervisor, I told all you firemen, I said, I'll give you 10% over the board to help you. We didn't have to bicker about it. The people in Sterling and Hannibal and that area, they aren't complaining about, you guys work your butts off for nothing. I know that. You're over here working your tails off. The town board basically works their tail off for nothing too, because I've been there. And until you've been in the trenches, like you've been a fireman or you've been a board member, you don't know. But the thing of it is, if you can prove, and that's something I told the Fairhaven Fire Department, the Hannibal Fire Department, you come to me as an elected official and show me that you need more money to run your department and run it safely and do whatever you want to do. I'll guarantee you the people will stand behind you and give you any amount of money that you need. And that's all I ever ask. You just show me that you need it, you got it. And I think it still stands that way.
Yeah, you just lose one life because you don't get an ambulance that time, or you don't get a fire truck there. And that $7,000 ain't worth squat.
That
ain't worth squat.
The thing of it is, we aren't talking about we're talking about the $7,000, whether it's going to help your fire department get there a little quicker to your place or not. And I don't think the people of Sterling or the Hannibal district are going to quibble one damn bit about $7,000. If you guys need the $7,000 to make sure that your life is safe, by all means, give them the $7,000. I don't think you can put a price on anybody's head, whether it's $7,000 or $100,000. That isn't what we're talking. We're talking a lot of other things here. Thank you.
On the issue of money, I'm treasurer of the Hannibal Fire Department, and a couple of things that I'd like to say along the line of money, because the money issue is brought up. First of all, as an independent corporation, we do not have the ability to go to a municipality, such as a village or a town, because we're not owned by either a town or a village. So that when we need to do something in purchasing equipment, or whether we need to build a building, or whatever that expense may be, we have to rely on ourselves and our own budget committee to be able to plan for this. If we get into any serious trouble, any resources that we need have to be ours. If we need to buy a $200,000 piece of equipment, we have to have the money to pay for it. We cannot have the village bond for it or the town bond for it because they don't own any part of us. We're one of the few companies in the area that is completely independent. So our problem becomes one of planning for our financial future. And it's not an easy one because everything that we purchase costs more each year. Now, this past year, after a long time, we finally have sat down and we have made over a period of time some long-range plans about equipment that we felt that we were going to have to replace. And at the time, we came up with equipment that would have to be replaced within a 60-month period or thereabouts of 1 ambulance, 1 rescue truck, and 1 pumper. All of them would exceed 20-some years in service, and many of them were getting to the point where the rust is eating away at them so that there's nothing more that we can do for them. So our question then became one of, where does this money come from? Well, as some of you know, or many of you know, most of our money for the last several years has been raised through our fundraising efforts. The minority part of our income has come from taxation. The taxation being contracts with Hannibal Village, Hannibal Town, and Sterling Town. We happen to have a large group of members who have spent many hours of their lives each week working on fundraisers. Everything from field days to bingo to barbecues, you name it. We have done that in an attempt to keep the fire taxes as low as possible. And in looking at fire taxes in our districts, you'll find that they are lower than most of our neighbors. In terms of dollars collected, much lower. In terms of cost per thousands in assessed value, much lower. So we looked at all this, we looked at our budgets, we've tried to plan how we're going to purchase this equipment. Now, over a period of years, as Dave pointed out, Sterling had offered 10% more each year, which began when he was in office. We planned that into our budget for 1993. You folks work with a budget, you presented it here a few weeks ago. We planned on that income. We have planned on that income toward equipment purchases. We just acquired another ambulance. We bought one from the Liverpool department when they went out of business. We saved the taxpayers easily $35,000 to $45,000. And ourselves as well, which is ultimately coming from the taxpayers. Now, we've got 2 more trucks that need replacing. Each one of those is going to cost us in excess of $200,000. We know this. Now we don't know what to do. I mean, instead of going forward with money, now we're going backward. Everything we buy costs more on a daily basis. So we're caught in the middle. At the same time, it would appear to at least some of us that, you know, I'm a resident of the town of Sterling. I've been a member of the Hannibal Department for 30 years. I've been a member of the Fairhaven Department for 3 years. But, you know, it looked like by taking a cut in money, we really weren't being appreciated for the efforts that we were putting forth, particularly when we've demonstrated that 60% of our income is already coming from our own efforts. Now we're going to be asked to pick up $7,000 more. When we had planned on a 10%, we're getting far more than that at a decrease. True, there's a question about territory. I have a question in my mind about the validity of basing fire contracts on property value assessments, knowing that full well most of the calls in the town of Sterling are ambulance calls, not fires, ambulance calls. What we're saying, to me at least, when we do that, is the guy that lives in a $10,000 house is not quite as equal as a guy that lives in a $100,000 house, because we're going to compensate the fire departments on the basis of the value of the real estate within those areas. In reality, most of our calls are ambulance calls. So why should that money be based upon the value of the house? The point that I'm trying to make is 2 things. Number one, I felt that the decrease in the contract money was based in part on property value.
So are you saying a person that lives in a $10,000 house
should be entitled to the same coverage as the guy that lives in a $100,000 house?
Which he will be getting. Which he will be getting. It's the same ambulance, whether it's your ambulance.
Band-Aids.
How are you getting your rationale for that? I don't understand your line of thinking, excuse me.
I'm not the one that...
Let me interject something.
We did not use, that was not, we just did not use a simple multiplier of assessments. We used that is a barometer, if you will, and then we also looked at the past record of, as it states in the sheet we passed out, the records of alarms responded to in Sterling by what fire company and also where. So,
of the money was on the value of the property within the boundaries.
That's true, that's part of it, but that's...
It's not the whole story. What you're doing, you're using an analogy of one side of the coin, and I'm flipping it over and say there's another side of the coin, which we also use to make that determination.
But that doesn't recover the money that Hannibal lost.
Well, all right, that's true. That's true. I mean, if we get down to it, the next thing which some towns are going through right now is part of this whole equation is requiring audited financial statements from each fire company to say, as Dave said, if you need the money, show us you need it. Now, you just explained to me of capital expenditures that you're going to be facing in the next few years, as well as the town government goes through. And that's something that other towns are doing right now, are looking at how much money does the fire company have, what are their planned expenses in the future, and also using that into an equation that you're going to come up with a number of taxpayers' money that you're going to use to give the department. So it's not an easy, we have not taken just property assessments to come up with these numbers.
But you didn't tell us that. You told us you were using property assessments.
We use that, well, we said that would be one of the criteria that we would use in developing
But then you didn't ask us either about our planned expenditures and what our income needs were either. You never asked us that.
Maybe that could be some negotiation down the road.
But now here we are at the 11th hour, you know, and these questions weren't raised or brought up. So where do you go from here?
John Gambis, Chief of the Hannibal Fire Department. I'm curious as to how the board come up with some of the boundary lines that they've established. For instance, the Schoolcraft Road, Sterling Valley area, which is actually closer to Hannibal, was given to Fairhaven. We also felt, as we put in our proposal to you a few weeks ago, that we could respond as quicker to the Moon Beach, North Sterling area because of the state roads that we travel, meaning Route 3 and 104A, which are both excellent roads. And we're curious as to why, you know, what criteria did you use when you established these boundaries?
Well, basically, we took the maps and we're just kind of overlaid them and basically tried to straighten out the lines and simplify it by following like 104A is where really that came from, and overlapping and giving the hamlet of Sterling Valley and North Sterling, and that's what we did in that area.
You know, you keep going back and saying straighten out the lines, straighten out the lines. I guess I don't understand all this because in my mind, for the last 23 years that I've been in the Hannibal Fire Department, I thought the lines were straight. We know where our district was. We never had any problem with where our lines were or where our district was. We had it pretty well established. We knew where it was, and we got over, I know when we got over to Red Creek side, and I'm sure Dale can verify this, we knew where our lines were. Now all of a sudden there was a big problem with nobody knows where the lines are. Well, geez, you got a map up here that says original district. You seem to know where the lines are on that map, but you didn't know where they were a couple weeks ago, and I'm confused about that.
The original lines on that, I believe, were taken mostly from your proposal that you had said that you had covered is where they came from. We couldn't find anything in writing or
anything here to indicate hard and fast boundary lines. So that, as Harold's saying, that's what we arrived at.
You know, we have no problem with establishing definite boundary lines by roads. Where our problem lies is we don't feel that the town board was looking out for the best interest of the citizens of the town of Sterling the way they established the boundary lines on the present map. That's our feeling in Hannibal.
I feel real bad that two fire companies couldn't sit down and work this thing out. You put an awful burden on this town. The town council are not professional firemen.
We were here.
You were here, that's fine. You were here. Two fire companies got to sit down and hash it out.
I called this through again on the phone that night and said, we are ready. We want to lay this on the table.
Would you let him speak?
What you did was that
We had a meeting here with you, with Fairhaven and Wright Creek. We adjourned a meeting. What you did is that you called back when we were in the supervisor's office and you wanted to come over and have a private meeting with your people after we adjourned the meeting. No, don't tell me that. You just made an accusation at this board. That is exactly what happened. And we are not going to deal in that fashion. We dealt with with all three fire companies in an open meeting. We adjourned a meeting, and you called up and wanted to come over, that right then and there, exclusive of the other fire companies. Now, I'm not going to tell you what that smacks of. So I was just accused by your fire chief, and this board was accused of not having the best interests of this town and state. That's a very serious accusation. The people in this town have elected us to serve them and to make decisions, and we've met on this for the last 6 months, as Harold has said, for at least a dozen times, to try and work this thing out. This is not something that the town board chose to get itself in the middle of. We have tried to make some very hard decisions, and we knew that people are not going to be happy with it. That it would end up exactly like this. But I can assure you that the interests of this town are paramount importance. And I think that's a very insulting statement to make to elected people in this community.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I just got another comment. I still think you ought to sit down, and both the fire companies, and as rational people, if you gotta get a mediator in here that has nothing to do with it, get one and sit down and hammer something out. Instead of picking around and saying, we're gonna do this, and you're gonna do that, or else it's gonna be too bad for everybody.
Let me just say something to that. You have confidence in, the Hannibal Fire Department has confidence in the Hannibal Town Board to make a decision to give all the district to Hannibal. And I don't hear anybody quibbling about that. Maybe Ira would quibble about it, maybe Granby would quibble about it, but nobody else, and you've had the confidence, and I don't know what the distance is away, but it's quite a ways, and there's other fire departments on those county lines, or town lines, that are closer than you are, the same as what you're talking. So you're creating a problem here that doesn't need to be created. The thing of it is, this town board is just as competent as the Hannibal Town Board is to make these decisions. They sit down in good faith, work with the companies, and I think in the future, you'll find that they'll do the same. You come back to them, say that you're $7,000 short, and show it to them. I don't think there's anything wrong with me paying an extra $1 or $2 for Hannibal. I don't have that feeling as a Town of Sterling resident. I don't have a problem, and I don't think any other Sterling people do, to help out Hannibal. That's not the question. The question here is the territory. And the town board has tried to sit down, work it out, and come up with a reasonable territory for everybody. And your town has done that, you've accepted it, everybody else around has accepted it. And this town board has worked their butts off to come up with a reasonable thing, and they'll still work with it. It isn't like goodbye Hannibal. That isn't what they're saying to you. That's certainly not what I'm saying as a Sterling resident. I don't want to say goodbye Hannibal. If you need that extra money, by damn, you come and show you need it. I'll guarantee that the people of Sterling will help you get it. If we got to go over there and work at your booths or whatever, we'll do it. That's not a problem.
You tell that to somebody that needs an ambulance, they can't get one from Hannibal because they won't send it because they're not covered. They don't have to.
The Hannibal, Sterling, and Fairhaven Fire Department, Red Creek are going to work together. They aren't going to do what you're saying.
They aren't going to?
No.
Are you going to guarantee that?
I'm not going to guarantee you nothing, pal. I'm just telling you that all people that have got good common sense and love their neighbors will take care of it. They won't pull that crap.
People make it sound like as soon as this is all over with, we walk out of here, we're not gonna send an ambulance to Hannibal because they need it, or Hannibal's not gonna send an ambulance to Fairhaven
That
because they
Rick
need it.
Brooks is going to refuse to service me. I'm dying and I need an ambulance. Are you going to refuse to come and see me and take care of me?
If we're not contracted with the town of Sterling, we can't go until Fairhaven or Red Creek calls us.
You mean to tell me you can't go mutual aid?
Yes, we can go mutual aid, but what I'm saying is, if the Hannibal Fire Department is not contracted with the town of Sterling, we cannot respond to the town of Sterling until Fairhaven or Red Creek calls us. We just can't go because John Doe called us up and say, hey, I want your ambulance, I don't want Fairhaven's. We can't do that. We can't go in their territory without them calling us.
Would you please clarify? If I have this gentleman is insisting on an ambulance. If I need an ambulance and I live in Fairhaven, where am I calling? Am I calling the firehouse directly? What number am I calling? Who is answering my phone call? If I live in Hannibal and I need an ambulance, am I calling this gentleman directly? Am I calling this gentleman? Am I calling George? And if I call Red Creek, am I calling Rick Brooks? Where am I calling? Clarify that, please. No, you're calling a dispatcher.
Goes to a central dispatcher.
Who's going to come to me? If your ambulance is out, who in Fairhaven would call Hannibal, Red Creek, and we will respond. We're not going to let you die.
No.
This gentleman is insisting that I would not get an ambulance. Okay. He's making an issue out of this. But if Fairhaven's busy, Fairhaven's going to kick out Hannibal, won't they, John?
That's right, Julie.
That's what they're saying.
Listen to the manager.
If Fairhaven's out, and you need another ambulance, they called us, and you're gonna pick her up, and you're gonna take her.
I think what that gentleman is worried about is losing the Hannibal Fire Department. He wants Hannibal to be his first call.
He's not talking about the fire department, he's talking about the ambulance. He's made an issue of that, and all of you should be insulted. You would respond to someone who needed you.
First call basis. If he is in Fairhaven's district, no.
Then you're not coming.
I'm not seeing that gentleman's point of view.
No, you're not at all. You don't understand what he's saying at all.
It's gotta be the department first. How long is this hearing waiting?
Come up here for a second. John, if I take the floor, Dale, John, or somebody, can you guys just stand up for a minute? Just to clarify, if we can talk for a second, if I'm incorrect on how I'm going to say this here, to answer the questions. When he says he can't respond until someone requests him from his contractors in that territory, that is correct. They just can't. It's called jumping calls, or whatever you want to call it. If we're out, if Hannibal's out and Red Creek's out, they're going to call whoever is the closest or convenient for that area. So somebody is still going to get an ambulance. We've been out many times. Hannibal's been out many times. Red Creek's been out many times on a call, or even Hannibal's got 2 ambulances on both ambulance calls, and they've needed to call somebody else. Same with Red Creek and us. What we do is we call the closest. We always rule something. A rescue truck, which you can't transport, but it's got medical supplies on it. So everybody's still going to have something at their door immediately. It might not be the ambulance itself. It's going to be medical, a fire truck, even if it's an engine. They're still going to have medical personnel come to the door, respond, until they can call for mutual aid. Then under a mutual aid contract between the departments, then they will come if they can get a crew. If we can get a crew, if they can get a crew. Then everybody's still going to have coverage, is how I can see, for speaking for Fairhaven, and if I'm wrong from Red Creek and Hannibal, everybody's still going to get there. It might take a call from us to ask them, or a call from them to ask us. Everybody's still going to get protection. I don't think that was the issue, if I'm wrong, of the town board, just defining the boundaries of who's going to get the initial call. Thank you.
Anything else, anybody? Dale?
Yeah. If this plan is implemented, would it be possible to convert it in 1 year to give the departments that are coming up along the short end ready to make other arrangements with the finances, like if you got a $20,000 payment for a truck?
In other words, you say amend it and make it a 1-year contract?
No, I'd like to, my idea was to postpone it for 1 year. In other words, amend it or put it in effect, whatever you're going to do, but leave it as such for 1 more year to give us, to make arrangements for financing the money we're losing. I can appreciate, we had the same thing, we went through this for the town of Victory, 7, 8 years ago. Victory was a home department. Victory should have the bulk of the money. Cato got hurt some, we got hurt some, but nevertheless, we survived it, let's put it that way. But I can appreciate, I live in town of Sterling, and I can appreciate Red Creek doesn't want to lose 2,000, Hannibal doesn't want to lose 7, whatever their figure is. But then on the other hand, the town of Sterling has got a department in their area. And there is, if I remember, I can't remember the figures now exactly, but what have you been paying out of your township
60%.
to other towns?
60% of the fire protection money has gone out of the town of Sterling.
I'm not surprised. I know it's a hard pill to take. It's, no one wants to lose any money, but then on the other hand, unfortunately, as far as the Red Creek is concerned, we've got the Michigan Woods in our district, and that doesn't pay worth a darn. Thank you.
Any other comments on the board? Oh, yes.
What I understand is, you sent us out here to set up our maps the way we felt what we could cover, and we did it basically on mileage, who was the closest department in any given area. But what I don't understand is how come we didn't come back and sit down and negotiate this a little bit? We never did that. You didn't ask us to come back, and all I see is this money figure thrown out, which is costing us money, which we've set up a budget, and now we've got to bite the bullet, and we've already set our budget for the year. Now we're coming up $2,500 short. Now I ask you, where do we go to get that money replaced? See, that's what's bothering me.
I'd like to back right up behind him and say the exact same thing as he just said. That's all we needed is to meet with you people again.
We're not in this to make any money, believe me. If you saw our budget at the end of the year, you would wonder how the hell we're making ends meet now. But you cut us money without even sitting back down and telling us the reason why. Except the only thing I hear is assessed value on the piece of paper that I read. You know, have you contacted our town board at all, talked to them, our village board? Has any letter been sent to them? Is this thing set, or is it just proposed? What the hell is it?
This is a hearing not for tonight, right now.
See, I don't really feel that you come in here and just say, well, we're gonna cut Hannibal some money, we're gonna cut Red Creek some money, you guys just bite the bullet. 'Cause we're already losing money. We aren't making any money. We're in the hole every year. And we have to get out there and work hard to just make ends meet. And I don't know if you guys priced fire equipment lately, but it's not cheap. Fire truck, $150,000 on up. Ambulance, $60,000 on up. And I haven't even looked at prices recently, but tankers, I mean, we're all biting the bullet here. I just don't feel that it was really fair for you just to come out and say, well, this is what it's gonna be, and you didn't want to sit back down and talk, and that's basically what you did.
Well, you can rest assured that fire protection money and cuts and whatnot are not the only thing in the town of Sterling budget that's
That's the
up.
last place to be cut.
I know, but that's,
Well,
it was cut very,
there was a
very
general
modest.
10% increase overall in the
That's
fire
the other part.
protection.
Excuse me, how come we went from 10%? When Dave was in, the supervisor, it was 10%. Now all of a sudden we're dropping down to 94 or 6, 4. 10%, right?
10%, which is more than generous, more than, way out.
This year you got 10%, and it was it for 93, there was a 10%
Way
increase.
above the inflation rate.
We don't get a idea, but who's getting paid for it? When you blow out Red Creek, we're coming.
Harold, I just want to repeat a couple things that our president said and add a little bit. The bottom line for Hannibal, I don't know if everybody understood this, but the bottom line for Hannibal is, proposed area that you've outlined for us, we cannot afford to service it for $15,000. We fully anticipated getting the increase this year, which would have given us $22,627. As a membership, a unanimous vote by 40-plus members at our last meeting voted not to accept your proposal because we cannot afford to service the town of Sterling for that amount of money, and we do not feel it's fair to ask the town of Hannibal or the village of Hannibal to subsidize the town of Sterling. So I just want everybody to be perfectly clear on that we have turned down your proposal as outlined here tonight.
Is that a threat?
No, I'm just stating what the members said. It's not a threat, it's a fact.
Harold, you said before you had a public hearing such as this, you discussed your contracts before?
Yes.
There was a public hearing. You have not sat down with the elected officials from these departments to discuss the contracts as was done in years past.
Before, there was always just a phone call made, and 10%, and that's the way it has always been.
I guess I disagree.
Since I've been involved with it.
Okay, they all sat down before and discussed it. My question is, did you have the elected officials to sit down in a meeting with the town board to discuss and negotiate, as Red Creek and Hannibal both said, these boundaries and contracts?
No, we didn't have to sit down and negotiate
No one ever asked you.
dollars, cents.
I think no one ever asked you. You always posted it, didn't you? Just like you did this year. It's always been posted, no one ever asked.
You more or less ask them to submit something before the
Submit something
budget.
each year, every year you put, it's in the paper, you're gonna go to fire contracts.
Yes, sir.
If you pay these fire companies what they're asking for, how much is it gonna cost each individual property owner in this town? About $5 apiece.
2,300 parcel, I don't know, I have to figure it out,
So who's gonna quibble over $5?
Harold? Why don't you, it seems like you keep, this world unfortunately is made up of dollars and cents. And we gotta have them, like John says, to run the department. You gotta be able to cover the area, you gotta be able to cover the machinery to do it. So my suggestion would be, is finalize your territory, and then as far as like Red Creek's getting hurt with losing the 2,500 up front all of a sudden, maybe Hannibal's getting hurt losing the 7,000 up front without, all of a sudden it's bang, the state does it to the municipalities, but that's something they're used to. But the thing of it is, maybe that would be a negotiating part where you could sit down, have them show you your financial records that you need, what you need, go to the people and say, look, for that district over there that they're in, we've got so much for fire district. So it raises it another 50 cents for Elmer's place. Elmer's not gonna complain to give Hannibal another 50 cents or $1 to give them the money that they need to cover that area. So I don't think you ever got a problem with the people that I ever seen when I was in office, that if the company needs so much money to operate and protect their people, bring it up front, show it to the people, and I don't see where I don't think that's a problem. The big thing is get your territories locked down, solid up, so everybody knows where they're going, and then figure out your dollars and cents to make sure that everybody isn't gonna get hurt on it. And that don't matter whether it's Fairhaven, Hannibal, or Red Creek. If they're our company, they're the ones that are gonna protect our lives and our children. And if Hannibal says they need another 7,000, or Red Creek needs that $2,500, look at their financial statements and make a decision. Go to the people and say it's gonna cost you another 50 cents or $1. Hannibal can't afford to do it for that. I don't see where that's a big problem.
Doing it that way, we're gonna have 3 different tax rates. Each fire district will have a separate
Well,
tax rate.
you do in lighting districts. We have a Martville lighting district, a Sterling lighting district. We have different districts that are covered different ways, and whatever your attorney legally says you can do or can't do, then if you can spread it out over the whole township, I don't have a problem in it costing me another 25 cents to make sure Hannibal's there to help me. And I don't get the Hannibal assistance unless our ambulance or something was out where they come over under mutual aid or were asked to come. But I, as a taxpayer, don't have a problem with that. I don't think anybody else does, if that's the way it comes down. But legally, if it has to go, in other words, this is a Martville lighting district or this is a Martville fire district, the people there pay for what they get. In other words, they're paying for what they're getting. If they got a complaint, they should come to us and say, look, Hannibal's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, or Red Creek or Fairhaven's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Then you got a legitimate complaint, because the people are saying, well, why the hell aren't you there? I'm willing to pay you, just be there. I don't see where, does the board see where that's a problem? That's how the people that are in that district, they're paying for that service. I'm paying for my service. Red Creek's paying for their service. And then you know basically what you're paying for. It's just like I got through with the with 8 and 14 hours. If I work 8 hours, I expect to get paid 8 hours. If I work 14, I expect to get paid 14. I don't see any problem with that.
Well, that's what our attorney told us, basically. We could end up with 3 separate tax rates, and I just couldn't understand.
May not like it, but
I just don't feel it's right for somebody in one end to be paying a higher tax rate than somebody in the other end. That's why I tried to get it set up with, so everybody was at the same equal rate of about 74 cents a thousand.
I understand what you're
And
saying.
that's, but it just doesn't seem to want to work out that way.
The thing of it is, you gotta have the community behind you and the fire department behind you. So if this is what it takes, the community behind and the fire department, so you're both working together, there's no need for this family that we have here. You know, good sure that people are related, I guess as time goes on they're not, but it's always been over the long duration that the small towns were related to each other, whether they lived in Hannibal or they lived in Sterling. And I think that's the way it ought to be, even if you aren't related. I think that's the way it should be. That's why you live in rural country areas. So you can have these things, you can negotiate, you can talk them out, you can settle. And most generally all it takes is getting up, stating your piece, even though you don't like it. But you gotta say the things that really bother you down deep in your heart. That $7,000 bothers you, say just like John did, say it. Territory bothers you, say it, and work it out. And that's what I think you're down to. And I think you're down to now work out the money so people don't get hurt. And when the boys from Hannibal go out and cover their district, they feel good. They appreciate me and they're paying me good. I'm going the same with Red Creek.
Will you give that gentleman a chance to talk there?
Anybody that wants to.
Well, okay.
Ron Smith, Fairhaven Fire Department. I just have one question. If this is so crucial, the $7,000 here, then why are they willing to gamble with what they are getting to make a point here tonight? I don't understand that. They're willing to gamble with what they're gonna get and say they can't sign a contract all for $7,000. Sounds to me like they're trying to make the town hostage here or something because they want this money, or else maybe they can't sign the contract. Sort of a psychological issue to me.
Thank you. I got that too. If we can do it, and other towns can do it, I don't see why Hannibal or Red Creek or Volney or Granby can't do it. We've been doing for $20,000 last year, over 200 calls. We did it. We're still in business. We're doing. So I can't see why anybody else can't.
Harold, try one.
Question, how much money would, say, 15 cents per 6,000 raise in additional fire tags?
15 cents a thousand for townwide?
Townwide.
I'm looking at about 56 million. I don't have my calculator here.
Somewhere between $7,000 and $8,000, $9,000.
Well, let me tell you, 74 cents.
This year it was just under 70, or just around 69.
Yeah, well, then
75.
93, it was just over 74, I think it was. 74, and that's raising 46,280.
Townwide.
Yeah, townwide. Yeah, 77 cents is raising 46,000.
You mean 56,000? Yeah.
46. Because the ambulance is out of the general, it's not a separate district. It's in the general county, it's a separate item in the general budget, it's not in that. So, you're looking, like I say, 74 cents is raising 46,280.
If you made it 90 cents?
Per 6,000, that would put you about where?
90 cents would give you about, give you about $8,000 more, roughly. Roughly $8,000 more.
And that would be about 16 cents assessed thousand then. So if a fellow was assessed for $100,000 at 16 cents, that would give him how much in tax increase?
16 cents.
Okay.
Additional.
Additional, right.
Roughly, these are rough figures. Yes, back there in the
I haven't said anything all night, but I'm Gene Gardner, the village mayor of Hannibal. I think one of the things that some of the firemen gotta think of too is that there's been a 64% increase in the last 4 years. Had there been their way, there'd been 230% increase. The town boards have held the line, and I don't know about the town of Sterling, or I do know about the town of Hannibal, have been cut on taxes from the state and everybody else. And we've either got to raise ours and raise and raise and raise, and it's just got to the point where people are just saying to us, we don't want no more raises. And $10 or $20.
We've gone through that here, just like the town of Hannibal has, and our highway department is kind of taking a flick next year, and just to keep from getting a big raise, because we aren't getting the revenues in.
They've gone so far as wanted to dissolve the village of Hannibal because of taxes. So I don't know if it saves any money, but it's that serious.
Well, we have some different proposals out here. What does the board feel? I guess first of all, we should decide on our fire district. Our boundaries that we've drawn. Do we want to act on a resolution and act on that tonight? It's up to the board right now. Yes.
I'd like to, I'd like to make the resolution, the fire contract district to be adopted as submitted, and fire protection contracts as the town board has developed.
Do you want to leave the clause open and negotiate on
Not this year, we can't do it next year. Set it for, make one exclusion, maybe, set it for a one-year contract. We'll set it for a one-year contract, we'll come back to and get down to brass tacks. We'll leave it at the money, at the districts, and Does anybody want to hear what the resolution is going to be?
Can we hold it down, please? We have a resolution on the floor where the town board, we would act on, adopt these fire districts as outlined on the map. The contracts, we would, since the budget and everything is in place, we would adopt them for 1 year with a clause next year of renegotiating them, providing the companies come back and can show a need for increasing. Is that the way I understood it? So there's a resolution, is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Dick?
Aye.
Carl?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Harold?
All right, so we're going to work with these fire districts as is. Now, the question is, can you live with those contracts for the 1 year? Can Fairhaven?
Speaking for Fairhaven, yes, we can.
Can Hannibal live for 1 year and next year negotiate if you come back and show us a definite need?
Well, we voted that down, that's what we told you before. We wanted to meet with you in discussion. All we wanted to do was sit down with you and talk, just like what Red Creek said, negotiate that.
Gotta conclude the hearing. It's been passed.
How about Fairhaven? Can they live with it for 1 year and come back and negotiate for another next year?
As far as I know, there's no board members from the village of Red Creek here, so we can't say.
Oh, that's so long, it has to be done with the board.
Miss Madam.
Unless there's somebody out in the hall that I don't know about. I don't know.
So then we have to conclude the hearing then? All right, we'll have to conclude the hearing then.
Somebody make a motion.
Make a motion.
I make a motion that the hearings be concluded. I'll second.
In favor?
Aye. Aye.
So then, let's take care of it. We'll move on then. We'll have to go on to the rest of the regular December meeting then. Minutes of last month's meeting have been passed out. Is there any corrections or deletions?
I make a motion to accept last month's committee meeting as written. Second.
Okay, Jim? What do you have from the highway department? Anything? We gotta run the rest of the meeting. Please, can you keep it down a little bit?
And we're drawing sand from, and we're drawing some stone for next year's work.
What did they agree to? Anything? We're gonna call a 10-minute recess here until there's all the flags down. A couple of guys gotta have a smoke. Ron's gonna get back, he'll be right in. Or 10 minutes turned into 20 minutes.
Time goes.
Somehow or other, I just was afraid it was gonna turn out like this.
So I mean, we don't have any protection from animals, or you're gonna get on Fairhaven.
I spent a half an hour in Denniston yesterday. Did you? He said, he controlled it down there.
I had to take
He says, and then
her
ask each one of the companies here if they will accept it. And if they don't, he says, you can turn it around and give it to the next company.
Cigarette to do it.
He said, it's all
It just aggravated it.
Well, let's start the meeting, continue on. Jim was given his highway report.
We've been taking out some trees. That new guardrail that we bought, I put it up on Onionville Bridge. And I started drawing stone 1As for chipping next year. And we got the sand pile almost up. And we've just been doing our maintenance and whatnot. Yeah, we had a tank over there called up to Tracy's. They wanted $800 for a tank, and so the bill is in there. I took the old tank up to Barbara's and had them build one for $233. So, other than that, I'm gonna be buying some tires. I was just telling Pat for that 74, and I'm gonna use some of them tires to put on our sander because they're radials, and replace them with the ones on the.
We're ready, is the actually ready for new ones, or?
No, the 74 Brockway.
Oh, the Bronco.
No, we
I'm sorry, I thought the Ash guy.
but I like when I choose my, when I couldn't get over here.
Okay.
Department.
What am I doing? The problem we had with the inventory, the computerized inventory program is solved. They took care of it. The problem was down there somewhere. And the program is running well, and all our inventory is accurate, current abilities, put it all back in, straighten that out. Harold was so pleased the other day. We received a voucher from the state. Harold signed and sent it back. And that is for the payment 15B4. Remember when we were going to do the revalue? Well, finally they say, sometime after you give us this voucher, we may give you $6,800. And that's back. And the property valuation software that we talked about a while back, we purchased that. The agricultural land exemption, the whole procedures and the process that we have to go through manually every year is going to be computerized. So we have a program for that. And also, we're going to start tracking building permits through the computer, by using the computer. Because there's just too much time for me to manually and handling them and carrying them over. So those things, those two programs, and the work that I need to do is going to be computerized before the end of the year. Beverly's now working on all renewals for exemptions, and I'm out trying to finish up the evaluation on new homes and things like that. We're in pretty good shape.
Bill Dow, Building Firing Code Officer, how's things?
Had a wonderful month. I didn't do a thing. Just sat back and not a darn thing. I just thought it'd be nice not to do anything for a month. Now I'm pulling your leg. We've been busy. I think it's a little bit busier than last November than November before. I don't know why. Sally has a number of permits, but I issued 8 certificates of occupancies for residences, and I handled 3 complaints in roundabout ways, but we got them settled. 5 fire inspections, 2 meetings, health department and so on. We had 2 court cases, I'm batting 100 so far, and 24 inspections of structures, new homes, garages, and mobile homes and so on. And that was for the month, which wasn't too bad, pretty busy. And this month, it's slowed a little bit. What do we have roughly? We have what, about 3 or 4 permits, maybe to now? About 4 permits. So we're going to probably be about 10 permits by the end of the month, be a guess on my part. But things haven't let up this year. Everybody's saying they're let up. I don't see where we're, Rodney, have you seen them let up?
No.
I haven't either.
Still spending money on additions and construction.
Remodeling, boy, I'll grant you, most of our permits now are for reconstruction, remodeling, for garages and mobile homes, and then homes would be less, but even so. But what's happening, I have seen a big change, and this is really interesting. Occupancy permits. Now the banks have really clamped down on people with certain phases of construction. These people want their occupancy permits. And what happens is you go to give an occupancy permit and it's not ready to have an occupancy. One today, they didn't have the electrical caps and the plugs in, the wiring, they had the drywall on, they didn't have the molding on, they had the water turned on, they didn't have the furnace completely hooked up, but they wanted a full occupancy so they can get a bank draw. Well, you can't do that. You gotta have it all done, because if a bank inspector or my inspector comes out, and I found in the past you let little things slide, then it comes back to haunt you. And I had one that, today I went on a wood stove here in Sterling, and the people reinstalled a new wood stove, and here it was 3 steps, they didn't have a rail on it. Well, the guy was building a porch and finishing the porch, and he didn't put the rails on it. And I said, you know, I'll give you your occupancy for the stove when you get those rails back on there. So, sometimes you have to use it like that, but I'm seeing a lot of that. People are trying to get the money from the banks for the jobs, and they're not really ready yet, which is surprising.
Have you had any calls from any banks?
Once in a while I do. One wants to know, what about this, or what about that? Or, the banks sometimes will send their inspectors out. They'll reach me either by phone on Thursday, people tell them they'll call me on Thursday, or, they'll reach me even at home sometimes, and I'll set up an appointment to, meet their inspectors to go over it. And I've had one in particular where they sent out somebody to do a job on 38 on a basement, the house, and the house didn't have stickers on the jack post in the house. Well, they wanted to know, the person selling the house had an independent person come out and look at it. And this person did his write-up, and he said the jack post weren't New York certified. Well, when this house was built, that law wasn't in effect, so they didn't have that on the post. It was built prior to '84, and they weren't going to okay this. And I went out and assisted them. I've also given assist in some of the adjacent towns or to assist to other departments. You know, one for, they needed some help in an inspection, another one. But we're seeing things like that happen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ralph, on to the legislature, do you have anything to report?
Oh, I've got a couple things. Last Tuesday, excuse me, last Tuesday night, we passed the budget. And as you all know, last year when the sales tax increase was put in, there was words that the land taxes or Cuba County taxes would not be raised. I think we meant that to be tax rate, but the words got in there tax levy. So what it's going to do is probably lower taxes to some people, because I'm sure everyone understands what we mean by tax levy. And what it did was new construction, we got more people to pay the same amount of taxes. Of course, the good part, we didn't have a lot of new construction, but it's going to cause a big drawdown on highway funds and et cetera. I think it was a week ago, Wednesday night, we cut $450,000 out of the county highway. But I think we'll live to, in just a couple more years, it's going to hurt bad. Anyhow, it passed about $42 million, I think.
Is that gonna fill it back to us now? Like our CHIPS program or some of these other programs?
Well, the CHIPS program sounds a little better now, don't you think, Jim, than it did?
I was told.
I think we'll have it.
Next year.
Right.
That's what I was told to plan on it for next year.
I believe that we'll have a CHIPS program. Whether it'll be in the same amounts or the same way, maybe in a bit. The other, and I talked to Sally about this, reference cats. You know, when rabies discovered in the southern part of the county, we don't have any cats to start with. That kicked into New York state law that requires all cats in Cuba County to be vaccinated. I just come from Victory, and they offered their barn, and you would offer someplace here, and I could take my other job as mayor of the village. We can do it there if needed, because going on some of the streets in the village, there's a lot of cats.
How are you gonna enforce it?
I don't have any idea. We passed rules galore in the state that we don't have any way of enforcing. Of course, I would think that most people would want to, if there's a rabies problem. Right.
There's so many cats that dropped off the roads down in the country. Just people go along and toss out 2 or 3 cats and...
Right. And somebody like Carl's barn, I assume every once in a while, some cats take up in your barn that are wild as...
Feral cats, they call them.
They're tramps,
Right.
Hobo cats.
Transit.
But most barns have that. Anyhow.
So we gotta find a spot then to set up.
I think if you want someone to come here, I'll try to coordinate it, and I'll talk with Charlie Dennison tomorrow night, and see if we can't get Cato. If we get 3 or 4 of them up here, you know, in succession, we get...
Carol and I sat for how many hours, Carol, in line with our animals one time? Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
What was it, 3 hours?
Yeah, someone told me that
At least 3 hours.
that was a long time to last time. So if we could get them for more days or more places, and then if a person didn't go to Sterling, that they went to Victory or Fairhaven.
We could use the highway
Superintendent's office,
That spot down there.
You got a cat?
No, I don't have a cat or dog.
Neither do I. We don't even have that over.
Not for me. We can figure out something, sure.
How much normally are the shots? I can't remember.
I think it is $1 donation.
And what do they cost? I think it cost me $15 to have my cats vaccinated.
They asked for $5.
But I mean, at the doctor, wasn't it 15 they charged?
We paid 20 yesterday, or Saturday.
Makes all the expensive cat. Anything else, Ralph?
No, that's all I have.
Okay. Sally, do we have any communications?
Yes, we have two county resolutions. One declaring the 24-hour dog quarantine during the 92-93 winter season. And the other one that goes through to April 30th of 94 for the night quarantine on dogs.
I should have brought that up to my resolution.
And then the only other thing is, we have the justice report.
That's all? Okay, well, let's start in on this communications I got. Pickard and Anderson. I passed out you fellows all these letters from.
He wants to buy the software.
He wants us to buy the software for reporting the analysis of the wells. Well, Saturday, I got another letter from him where he's come down from $3,000 to $2,000.
That's per town.
Per town. It's $8,000 combined for the 4 towns.
Did any of the other towns?
Hans and Scipio. He's agreed to it. And he is, according to the letter, I haven't talked to Hans, but according to the letter, Hans agreed to go to the 2,000. He wouldn't go to the 3. And I asked Cato, and they hadn't acted on it yet. They didn't know what they were going to do.
You know what?
They talked to him. So a development of theirs, Pickard and Anderson, and $8,000 seems awful high for it.
Basically, this is just to make their job easier, ain't it? I thought we paid them a pretty good buck now, without adding another couple grand on
It's a
top.
DEC requirement.
For towns, for what?
For reporting the analysis from our wells that we monitor on the landfill.
Which don't have anything coming out of it. So we gotta have software now, so we can tell us if there's nothing wrong.
Which costs us about $12,000 a year for monitoring clean water. Which kind of
I just have a problem with it on the grounds of what we're doing with this. When we talk about software, I mean, it's engineering software, yes, it's expensive, I'm aware of all that, but we are buying software for their engineering company, which it's not something we're using, it's something that they are using to perform their services that we are paying them to do. It's like me hiring Jim to go build a driveway if he was a private contractor, and then all of a sudden he sends me a bill, oh, here, buy this dump truck for me so I can go do it. I mean, that's the way if I'm missing something, it's the way I'm interpreting this. We're buying their business.
That's what DEC makes right. Because I said to Bill, why don't you go back, if they're mandating this, why don't they supply it? He just laughed. He says, there's no way that they'll do it.
It just doesn't set right.
Supposedly this report has to be in January 31st, and so I said I wasn't gonna make a decision, I put it up to the board.
Here, the problem with this, we've got to start to draw a line on this damn thing at some point, or it's just, I mean, it's an never-ending, it seems like every 3 months there's something else that comes up that we have to buy or pay for.
Of course, on the other hand, right now, the DEC is being quiet about our landfill.
Yeah.
They could start hammering on us on that, and there goes $1 million. So I don't know, whether you stir them up or whether you,
It's about time we start playing our heels down, that's what I think.
all right? You wanna meet with Bill? I'll set up an appointment, have him come down sometime.
Sure.
I think that's, I wanna see why we're buying software.
How much is it gonna cost us to have them come down?
It'll cost you.
What's that?
It'll cost you for him to come down, I'm sure. Time and distance.
Consultation fees, yeah.
Time and distance. The only time he come down and he didn't charge us was when,
Question one invoice.
yeah, when we refused the invoice.
Well.
Did you ask him why, did you ask him why they couldn't buy the software?
They don't have the money.
Sally has to ask.
We don't have it either.
Month it has to go through Sally.
How long do you like to ask Frank DEC or these little,
Yeah, that's like I say, we're doing what they wanna do, our wells are all tested
We
clean.
haven't been meeting the requirements.
who can afford it?
Reporting it. We haven't been reporting it to the DEC.
Oh, because we haven't got the software program set up. That's the first we knew of it too.
Yep.
So before that point, we've been meeting all their,
Right up until.
their criteria. Yeah, I don't know.
No,
I think I agree with Dick, it's about time we start putting our heels down in the dirt, you know, enough is enough.
Okay, I'll tell him we'll go on and,
What do you think, Carl?
Yeah, I'm all for it.
No, this is ridiculous, you know how?
no problem. Okay, I have a letter here from the Cuba County Planning Board. They want us to appoint someone to attend the planning board, county planning board as a representative. Ron has been doing it.
Good job for him. I nominate Ron to continue such a good job that he's been doing. Where is Ron?
Well, it's good, he stepped up, now we can.
Okay, I nominate Ron. Do I second it? All right.
He's on. You guys can pay him.
You'll learn, will you?
You want that as a motion?
Yes, you better make that as a motion.
I make that.
Second it.
I heard Carl second.
Carl second it.
I'll abstain. I have a letter here from the town of Summit. All town supervisors and village mayors. I was asked at the town association meeting in November 18th to continue to establish the Cuba County Council of Government. There are 25 towns and villages represented at this meeting. At your next town board meeting, did you get the attached resolution that passed? Keep one copy and send it to me. It was decided at the meeting that an organizational meeting would be scheduled for January in 1993 after the resolutions are done to establish the officers and an agenda. Anyone with any questions, please get in touch with me. Yours truly, Donald A. Chase, Supervisor. Did you act on that for the village of...
Well.
You will. So I guess I asked for a motion authorizing me to who's making it? Pat?
I'll make it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so then I will, oh, here's another good one. SPCA contracts. I need a authorizing the supervisor to sign the contracts with SPCA for 1993. It's the, you and I talked about it, I think it's the same as we had last year. Someone make a resolution?
I'll make that resolution. Second.
Dick,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
Joe.
Yes. All right. Let's see. Oh, we have a letter from New Channels. They wanted to increase their rates for installation. Passed this out. I don't think they need a reading at all. Just for everybody's information, they are on record that they are increasing their installation fees.
Are you gonna increase their coverage in town?
No? Did you ever make out anything with your, didn't you have a petition to get them to run all state roads?
I don't know if anybody ever, yeah, we did at one point, yeah,
You
originally.
never got an answer back.
No. Well, they just said they couldn't afford it.
That is basically what I have for correspondence.
I'm glad to see that we're not the only ones that got the ambulance and fire problems, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right, there was a letter from Cato, they're negotiating too.
Yeah, I did.
And I was supposed to go to that meeting, and Louis called me last Thursday night, it was, a snow night.
Yeah.
He said they canceled it, they'd be planning it in January. So Cato is having trouble with the fire contracts. Ira is, I was talking to Dennis, our attorney today, and, it went about the way he projected it probably would.
Yeah.
And, several towns are having that problem with fire.
We're not the only ones.
Okay. Old business, I don't, does anybody have anything they want to bring up tonight?
Well, could be old, could be new. And,
I guess it is kind of old, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find
Well,
it.
tell them what you found and, you might have, Sally is getting in touch with, somebody to look and see what has to be done with the.
Hallie has the name of a man that goes around and restores old buildings.
Oh, the restores the
Yeah.
museum over here?
And, in fact, he did, with Bob MacArthur there, half father barn over here.
The
That's
house
the
over-
cemetery.
the house back
The
in-
barn, he restored that. in the
Oh, they're the
basement.
ones that just had the fire down there, aren't they? Are they on the radio?
It's Woodford or Woodward or?
Woodford Brothers.
Woodford Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very reliable.
Yeah.
Great. They had,
And get an estimate of,
get an estimate from them, and then we'll go out
Right.
with some money someplace.
Right.
So
That's what Sally and I were talking, we gotta know what we're needing for money, and then we gotta take it from there.
While we're mentioning, can I approach the board to see if the board would relinquish a fee connected, give a free building permit to the Historical Society for any work they do there?
Oh, certainly. Well, I think we,
More than that. All right, I think we should. I don't want people axing me.
It's not the historical society, it's the town building.
still gotta hang a permit when we don't.
Right, you gotta go to the.
So do we want to set like a limit on this inspection, or set up authorizing you to okay after Sally does find out? Because we want to kind of keep this thing rolling and going. For him to come in and give us an
They're
estimate.
gonna get an appraisal right now, right?
Will you
Well,
give
we-
me authorization to
Will you
go ahead and
give-
do
To
it?
go ahead and do it?
To build, do it?
No, yeah.
No, I can't authorize, I'm not gonna authorize them because we haven't got any money for the budget to do it. Plain.
Maybe the historical society could, you can put in there, check and account.
We don't have an item in the budget to rebuild the floor over there, or for buildings, we don't have enough money in it. We wanna finish this year. Maybe the board would rather put this money in.
Well, we got some furnaces.
Yeah, we got some furnace problems too we gotta discuss tonight.
Let's find out what we're talking about, you know, first.
Find out what it is first. It isn't gonna cost you anything to give an estimate, is it?
I don't know, I haven't contacted them, so I don't know.
Oh, it's money.
Think so?
But I don't think it's gonna be that much.
Maybe they waive it, being a municipality.
Yeah. Have Tillman said it's a historical building. That'd be good advertising for them too.
Well, I guess we could do that.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, I'm not saying money to get it fixed.
No, just authorize me to go ahead and get these people to come in.
No. I'll just bring them to come
Yeah,
in.
money for that, and what do you, probably $200-300, something like that, would be, wouldn't it?
For an estimate? Yeah.
I would think so.
So it should be a resolution authorizing.
The Sterling Historical Society to get an appraisal for.
Forward. So not to exceed 300.
They may
You
not
get it
charge.
for free,
Yeah,
but-
they may not charge.
You get it for free.
And I don't think it would also be a bad
Who made the
idea.
resolution?
Wherever you pay it.
Who seconded it?
I did, seconded.
Dick,
Yes,
Carl,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Darrell.
Yeah.
what I was gonna suggest, it probably would also, I think it'd be a good idea that you also got, after you have them in, to get also some local people.
Yeah.
Give an estimate involved. I mean, and obviously judge.
Right.
I mean, that's fairly specialized. Work with an old building like that, so. Get some, the other guys a crack at it.
Okay, that's great. Anything else? Do you have anything else?
Do we wanna act on that letter which the task force sent to you? And, her marshal?
Dr. Herb on that? On the,
Yeah. You know, the letter that the task force, from the meeting of the task force, encouraging, the town and the legislature to, encourage the trust of public land to go forward with their work, so.
Brought up to the next night.
Okay.
yeah, so you need a, well, it'd be just a motion, because
Yeah.
there's no monies involved.
No.
There's no monies involved, so it's a resolution, or a motion asking for, the, encouraging,
TPL, encourage them to continue with their,
continue on.
with their work.
So you're making that,
Second.
so it's in the minutes, and you have a record of it. We're moving on.
I had asked for that to be effective 1 January, the start of it, or after the 1st of January. So that gives us just a little bit more time for the 6 months.
Sure.
To start 1 January?
Yeah, that's what they're,
Well,
That's what
none of
the-
our attorneys
No, I know,
have
but-
reviewed that or
yeah,
anything.
yeah. We're a long ways to it, but that's pretty much what they have said, that it's probably gonna be into January anyway, so.
But, we didn't want to do it right then. It had to be after the 1st of
other meeting the end of this month. If you want to start your recycling in January too, so you have to give it time to have a meeting to accept whoever's going to bid.
What's the reorganization?
That'd be first, or the
First week.
January, the.
First week in January.
Okay.
So I don't think it will, if we advertise this month for the bids to be in for January, and the January, we'll make the work. And we'll wanna put the, bids. I think it's selected by King, and DNL had it, and I don't know whether there's anybody else or not.
See, where they got the dollar rating, is he still? Yeah.
I think he is.
Yeah. What do you pick up once a month? Yeah.
So somebody wanna make that resolution?
I'll make that resolution.
You want that resolution or?
Motion, it's a motion.
Who's going to do that?
Carl.
We advertise for bids on recycling for 1 year, 12 months.
1 year. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Gotta have a resolution for, we got 4 transfers, getting towards the end of the year here. Pay the, Want me to read these off? I have 4 transfers. Huh? I'll make the motion, resolution. And is there a second?
Second.
There we are. Okay, another resolution to pay the audits.
I'll make a resolution to pay the audits.
All in favor?
Wait a minute, we should have had a roll call on the transfer. Dick,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Okay, now you make a resolution.
I'm told that some of the towns do not record those transfers, they just don't. We have them all in mind, so it's.
Okay, now for the resolution on the audits, Dick,
Yes.
Carl,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Bill.
All right, we'll move down here to the supervisor's report for November. We didn't have any big income, we only had $6,923.96 income, which was just a little bit of interest. And the total disbursements for highway, for general fund, highway payroll, I think, came to $36,668. We are left with cash on hand of $305,815.98. If there's any questions, maybe I can answer them. If not, resolution acceptance.
I'll make a resolution that we accept the supervisor's report. Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And the privilege of the 4 we've had. If not, that's all I have. Do we have anything else tonight? If not, how about a motion to close the meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
I thought I'd never end.